What's going on, big man?
Hey, living the dream. How you doing?
Good, good. It looks like I bet you Conrad didn't say he wasn't coming on, but maybe he's racing right now,
He's
going up.
yeah.
He's racing, trying to make it. He's probably trying to tell. Oh, Conrad's coming on board
Yeah,
now.
There we go. There we go. Yeah.
I go. I
We
go. I
want
would
to
have heard something.
start the podcast 5 minutes early just to see what you're doing 5 minutes leading up to
Yeah,
the podcast.
yeah.
Just to see it.
Awesome. I was just telling Brian that you're probably running somewhere on your trying to get on here because I didn't hear anything. I figured you'd be there.
No, I know. You know what? I was in the underground here at Upper James, and I was trying to get up. Like, get this going. I ran up the stairs. So anyway.
So guys, Conrad, you guys ever been to Banff?
Yes, I have. Yes. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh
there.
my God.
Beautiful.
I saw Lake Louise. Talk about a picturesque, like beautiful, breathtaking sight.
Oh yeah.
Like,
that's real God's country.
That is real. That is real God's country. I would love to own a house backing onto that freaking lake. Oh my God. It's just incredible. I couldn't believe first time I've been to Banff. Gorgeous. Now I see why a lot of companies, they hold their conferences in Banff because it is a beautiful little city or town that it is. But it was amazing. I also did the Mountaineer train ride going from Banff to Vancouver.
Oh wow,
And,
that's nice.
That'd be beautiful.
Wow.
It was a bucket list. Great trip. The first day, fantastic. Go through the Rocky Mountains. Second day, you're in Vancouver. You're going through some desert areas and stuff like that. But then we got held up for about 2.5 hours sitting just because a train on the other end was having trouble. So we couldn't move. So the second day ended up being a lot later getting into Vancouver than what we really wanted to. And with my ADHD and everything else, I'm like fidgety, right? I said, okay, come on, let's, it just dragged on too long. But if the second day finished at 3:00 or something, 4:00, fantastic trip. Fantastic. You're sitting, you can eat whatever you want and all you can drink. And if you're with a guy that likes to drink, guess what? It's worth his while. So
That might be awkward on a train, though, wouldn't it? You're already feeling a little bit wobbly. No?
You know what? You do feel it. And I felt it when I was going to bed at night because it's moving. But it was a great trip. So on the second level, we were up and it's all glass. You could see everything. And then the lower deck was the dining cart. Unbelievable. Great experience. Great experience. And I was on the phone quite a little bit. So people were getting a little annoyed with me, but it's okay. It's okay. But it was a great trip. But the one thing I wanted to talk about is about this guy wanting to he put a deposit down, I don't know how many years ago, on a condo development knitting mill, and now they've said, sorry, if you want to keep it, you're gonna have to. We'll give you your deposit back if you want to buy it. You have to buy it for $600,000 instead of the $184,000. Conrad, is it because developers are trying to get approval for a higher story while they're trying to pre-sell this thing? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what's the delay on this thing?
Yeah, in a lot of cases they're doing that. But what really, I think the delay, and as you know, I'm building an apartment building myself. So I will tell you the pricing. It's been the pricing that's been the issue. The trades and materials. So I think people are saying, let's wait another month or two. Maybe we'll see a better price from this trade or the concrete or whatever. So that's what's happening. And you know what? Look, no disrespect. And I've had many conversations with Harry Stinson, but I think everybody's got to do their homework on these builders, right? And see what kind of what kind of legacy Mr. Stinson has. And he had a real rough patch in Toronto in a thriving market, in a thriving condo market. He had issues. Then he came to Hamilton, I think people got to do their research a little bit more when they're buying these places, definitely. And the Addy one is a great example in Burlington. And they're actually going after their builder license. And again, how old is Addy? Tell me about your projects. You know what I mean? Like you can't take chances. You got to go with a real legacy builder these days. That have reputational equity and reputational challenges that If somebody said something like, if Mattamy pulled a stunt like Addy did,
Oh.
you know, they'll eat the cost before they'll have that reputation going out like that. So you got to really be cautious when you're buying these.
Oh yeah, like I feel sorry for the first time buyer that buying it, and he's living in his parents' basement or her whatever, whoever, and they put a deposit down, and then 4 years later they're saying, sorry, you don't get your deposit. So they could end up buying something else, built equity during that time.
I know.
So I feel sorry for those guys, and I get it with the developers. I get it. Housing, the cost of construction and material has gone up so much that the banks won't financing them at like selling a condo at $184,000. They're going to say, listen, we're not going to finance you even if you put this deal through. So there's no sense. And I understand that point of it, but I feel sorry for the first time buyer. Now, the guy that's buying to invest, he's just going to be bummed out. A lost opportunity, but he's not going to lose money. It's not like it affected his life, his future, or whatever. So I understand. I understand that, but yeah, but you're right. You got to go with the reputable builder on that end of it. And then Brian, like how does a guy get pre-approved now for 4 years later? Like his debt ratio is going to be different. Conrad, you're friends with a lot of these developers, and like how many of these things don't close on time or don't close at all because financing changed on the buyer? Like they must get 10%.
I think it's a good point right now. And just to reiterate, especially for first-time buyers, is the new construction the way to go, right? Like for a first-time buyer, depending on where you're at, because this is a perfect example of like your home ownership dreams are really being shattered. The guy or girl was pre-approved for $200,000 4 years ago. Their income likely didn't go up in the same aspect as the property values, right? So to buy a resale home when you're pre-approved to get into it right now, I think is a great opportunity to get in, start building equity, right? Yeah. And again, I'm down in Palm Desert right now for a mortgage conference. And one of the things that they keep reiterating that we've seen a lot of times is that whole marry the house, date the rate. When we talked that before, and they also added on divorce the landlord, right? Landlord at the end, they add on down here, right?
Love that, yeah.
But it's good because you know what, you're dating that rate and getting into it. And, even for real estate investors, we talk about this a lot. You're building equity instantly as soon as you buy a resale home. As soon as you buy and you close, regardless of what the rate is, you have certainty that you're in your house and you have certainty that you're paying down your mortgage. Yeah. So
nice.
It's interesting. It came to me today. There's a lot of articles about investors now and whatever, and they're saying, they can't cover. But I think they got to remember, Brian, that part of their payment is going towards equity, like you said. And I think this is where they get it. Well, it doesn't cover, but you're paying down equity. So take the equity portion out of the equation, okay, and say now does it cover? Does it cover the higher interest rate, my taxes, and all that?
And I think for the more savvy investors, they get that. But some people, if they went in and they're just trying to make the payment, that's where it starts to get difficult, right? But you're absolutely right, because it's not just the cash flow. That's actually the smallest part of how you're gaining wealth. The principal pay down is the gravy in my case. Like the price going up is icing on the cake, but the principal pay down is where you make most of your money, I find.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of condos. Conrad, all the guys. Now, how are the sales now? I know the guys that have the good reputations, the developers, they're selling them fast compared to new developers coming into the marketplace. You know what I mean? Like we're seeing, and they're selling fairly quick even in this market that we're in now. So you're right. It is reputation that's important.
Well, and I would say reputation, and if it's too good to be true, it usually is. And sometimes, when you start to look at the cost per square foot and you do that comparison, if it's marginal, it's going to be tough for these guys to complete it. I think you got to really dig deeper. But the other thing is you got to think of how long they've held the land. Any of the people that are doing well now, like you said, Rob, is that they bought that land. That land's probably been in their inventory for 5 to 10 years. If they bought anything 5 years or less, that's where you're going to be dicey in terms of You know, the cost of land was much higher than the cost of borrowing, and then the cost of construction. At least if you have something you've owned for 10 years, that land cost is, you know, you're at 10-year-old land cost. You could be at 10,000 a unit. It's and I'm telling you, it's like 10, 12,000 a unit versus like 100,000 a unit in land cost. That's a big thing.
It's
right?
huge. It's huge. And also developers, are they predicting what the square footage cost is in 5 years from now, and then they're trying to sell it now at that price? Are they trying to, is that what they're trying to do? Like in Fort Erie, $1,000 a square foot, like that seems kind of high, don't you think?
Yeah.
For a condo? Like there's a new development going up.
Yeah.
And I think it's the first condo project in Fort Erie.
Yeah.
And it's on the water.
Yep.
Great project. $1,000 a square foot. I thought, like, am I like, is that reasonable?
Yeah, well, there is. Look, there's a couple of factors. What will the market bear, obviously, and forecasting costs going down the road. So yeah, and I know it intimately, and I will tell you, from pricing something in 2016 to pricing it today, you're talking double the construction costs. So you got to be really careful, because you know you could lose your shirt on it. It's not for the faint of heart. But yeah, and I know that project because I'm across the street. I'm right at the river. I'm across the street, and I'm looking at them saying, "Yay! I hope they can do it,because I've got a similar sized property across the street. I'm hoping they do something great." But
of all the projects I bring up with you here, it's the one that you're
I'm across the street. I know it intimately.
So you're watching that one real closely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. So another thing that just happened, we got about 3-4 minutes left. House flipper, beware, new anti-flipping tax, eh? Crazy. Yeah. So, but you know what? Like most people that move into a house, I think they live in there more than a year. So they're gonna wait the 1 year and then keep going, I guess. I don't know. Like, is that, do you think that's gonna make a difference in income tax for the government? I don't know. Like, 1 year, it's, you know,
they'll rent it for a year. Unless, you know what, unless there's some other surprise coming, you know, this could be the first tranche of something to investors. Then they could, you know, and I've talked about maybe just they could just tax the income on the rental and not be able to write off the interest as an expense. There could be a number of things that we don't know. We don't know what they're going to do to investors. This could be the first of many.
I get it.
I think this has a small effect, right? Because, like, to your point, Conrad, you rent it out, you're actually going to be taxed more favorably if you rent it out, because what they're saying for if you flip it, it's going to be fully taxed. You don't get the 50% capital gain. So I think if this is a tax thing, I don't see a huge benefit to tax, but I also don't see it helping supply, because if anybody was a flipper, they're just going to hold on to the property longer or maybe rent it now.
Well, maybe I'll add some rental stock for a year or so. Like it's hard to say, but I will tell you this. Even though this doesn't come into effect until 2023, there have already been accounts, and I know for a fact that have advised their clients already that had multiple of these flips, that have already said, guys, let's just declare this as income, not even capital gains. So they're precursoring it because they don't want these people coming back. So
they will come back
6-7 months ago. Yeah,
they will come back. The government, for some reason, they knock on your door maybe years later, but they eventually catch up. So you can't mess around with that shit. But one last thing, the guy buys a property, builds a house on it. When does the 1 year mark start? From the time he buys it, tears it down, and starts building, or like what? Like the time he buys the building, and then. Because it could take more than a year to build a house, you know, from start to finish when you buy a teardown. Like, is it when they get their occupancy permit? Is that when it starts? I guess that's when the 1 year mark.
Probably when the 1 year would start. Yeah. Again, a lot of the definitions are not 100%, right? They're not there.
Yeah.
Like, well,
awesome.
You know, conceivably it should be when they bought it, started the reno, and then, You know, it's a very interesting scenario there. Look, I don't know if they know what they're doing either at the top now.
Hey, I'll share. I'll share one fun fact for you guys before you go too. Just being down in the States, I was with a group of mortgage agents from Montana, some from California, and some from Jersey. Their inflation is still going up here, and their rates are at 7%, and prices are still increasing down here. So I'm actually waving my Canadian flag quite proudly. You know what I mean? It's actually, you know what, when we look at everything, I wouldn't, you know, love the States down here and that, but I wouldn't want the alternative to what's happening right now. Just it really anchors me in gratitude for what is happening in Canada right now, because with the rate increases, it shows that because our inflation numbers have come down.
Yes.
Marginally, they're not coming down here. They just came out. So it's, you know, just for anybody that's looking at things, I thought we're in a good spot. We are actually in a good spot, which is nice to see.
Exactly.
Perspective. So anyways.
Awesome. All right, guys. Cool. Thanks a lot. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks.
Take care.